The second non-negotiable I had to change wasn't my technique, it wasn't my ideas, and it wasn't my commitment. It was space. Not just the aesthetic, not just the lighting, not just the setup, but also the sense of safety. After burnout, creativity doesn't disappear because we stop caring. It disappears because the space we ask it to exist in no longer feels safe enough to hold it. Hello and welcome. I'm Janet, architect turned creative renewal coach and watercolor artist. At Blueprint to Brushstrokes, I work with mid and late career creative souls who feel emotionally depleted and disconnected from their creative work, or unsure how to sustain creativity alongside an already full, very real life. My work isn't about hustle or output. It's about recovery, reconnection, and building a creative life you don't have to keep losing and recovering. If that's where you are, I've linked my free Creative Confidence Reflection Guide below, as well as the link to the North Star Mini Reset if you'd like gentle, structured support to help you get started. This is the third of 6 videos in my mini-series, The Creative Non-Negotiables, Redesigning a Creative Life After Burnout. These have been dropping every day for 6 days and will be collated in a playlist tagged here. So if you haven't already, watch the first videos to help lay the foundation and understanding. This series also connects to my earlier videos, How Do We Stay Creative When Everything Changes? And You Can't Recover from Burnout Without Changing Your Life, which I will also add to the mini-series playlist. When I talk about space here, I mean 2 things. I mean physical space, even if it's small, temporary, or portable, a place where creativity is welcomed rather than squeezed in. And I mean psychological space, the inner conditions we bring with us when we arrive. Because you can have a beautiful studio and still feel unsafe creating there. Or you can have a sketchbook at the kitchen table and it feels like a refuge. After burnout, creativity doesn't respond to pressure. It doesn't respond to perfection. And it doesn't respond to ideal conditions. It responds to safety. For a long time, I kept waiting to return to creativity when I had the perfect setup, the perfect stretch of time, the right energy, the right emotional state. But those things rarely happened. What I didn't realize was that waiting for ideal conditions was actually reinforcing the idea that creativity was risky, something that required performance. Part of reclaiming creativity for me meant committing to space, not perfectly, but intentionally. Having dedicated spaces, even if they were flexible or mobile, reduced friction. I didn't have to negotiate with myself each time I wanted to just sit down and sketch. For me, creating safer space meant reducing resistance intentionally. Instead of one perfect studio, I allow myself multiple ways to create, depending on my energy and where I am in my life. Sometimes that looks like my formal studio, a space that's permanently set up now, but didn't start that way. For years, it was just a small desk in a shared room that was part den, part office, part TV room, part my son's play space, part storage and junk pile. Other days, safer space looks like my portable studio. It's a repurposed old art kit with an easel and drawers. I can pull it out and set it up in the living room on our roll-top desk. And then when I'm done, I just put it away again. Sometimes it's my plein air kit, a simple kit I can just grab and go. A few tools, nothing precious, like sketching in a garden or public space when presence matters more than outcome. And often, the safest space is my pocket sketchbook. Something I keep with me at all times for observation, marks, and free-flowing ideas without judgment. None of these spaces are better than the others. They're just different doorways back into creativity. Safety comes from knowing I have options and that no single space has to carry the weight of my entire creative identity. Over time, I also began to think of creative space as sacred space. Not sacred in a strictly religious sense, but sacred in that creativity is a very special act and deserves to be honored. It is a time and place where certain things don't belong. Harsh self-criticism, judgment, productivity, scoring, comparison, the need to justify the time spent there, these are all actions that dishonor the sacred nature of creativity. In that way, creative space is also private space. My studios, my sketchbooks, they're places where I'm allowed to explore freely without being watched, measured, or corrected. Only welcome those that you trust into your sacred world. Psychological safety matters just as much as physical setup. Safer space also means giving myself permission to be slow, to be unfinished, to be inconsistent, to not impress anyone, including myself. It means letting creativity exist without being evaluated, without asking, is this good enough? Is this useful? Is this worth my time? When that inner pressure softened, creativity didn't need to be chased. It began to return on its own terms. In the next video, we'll talk about the third non-negotiable, patterns. Because time and space matter, but what ultimately determines whether burnout returns is how we respond to the same old cues: pressure, fatigue, expectation, fear. Creativity doesn't just need time and space, it needs safety in motion too. Until next time, wishing you a grace-filled day that is kind and nourishing to your creative life.